Hello everyone, Dr. Nicole Heatherly here with Mid-Atlantic Chiropractic. We have Kadi Englehart here.
Hello.
With 40 weeks of Kadi. This is Kadi's 35th week of pregnancy, so really getting down to that delivery. So very exciting things. This week we wanted to talk to you guys, since we're getting close to delivery, we wanted to talk about natural pain relief options. The biggest pain relief option, especially in a hospital birth, a hospital setting, is an epidural nowadays. And everyone has their own opinion. We here at Mid-Atlantic are the drugless health solutions, because we know that the power that made the body heals the body, and we have everything in our bodies to be able to heal itself. Pain is a normal thing that happens in the body. The best way to go about it is to manage it. And our beliefs are that putting a chemical into your body that's also going to be introduced into the baby's system, especially when that baby's immune system is just developing, isn't necessarily the best option. So that's why we wanted to give you guys some other things to consider. So the first thing and the biggest thing, I think, is position of the mom when delivering birth. Unfortunately, the most common way, again, is in the hospital. And not that I'm knocking a hospital, but that's the most common place where people deliver babies nowadays. So at the hospital, the most common thing is to have the mom on her back in the bed. So literally the mom's, legs are up like this, you're on your back. And what that's doing, I have an example here of a spine. So if I have the mom on her back like this, and I'm just going to actually walk a little closer. This is the pelvis, so this is the area where the baby has to come out of. So if I have the mom on her back, it's kind of closing off this region. It's pushing the tailbone forward, well, you can kind of see it. It's pushing it forward, essentially closing that opening. So that's going to make for a way tougher delivery, because you're closing off the area that the baby needs to come out of. So you really want to consider definitely not being on the back. Sideline position is a really good position. Squatting, and then besides different positions, because I don't necessarily think you should choose one position, because movement is a big way too, to kind of manage through the pain. But you can consider a water birth. And water, the heat is the warmth of the water, not that you're in a hot bath, but the warmth is very soothing. So that can be really conducive to pain relief. Kadi told me a really cool story, which I'm gonna have her explain in just a minute for the rationale behind what I'm gonna tell you guys next. But the next thing is a breathing exercise, and you can do this within labor. What happens is, labor is a stressful thing to moms just in the moment. Not that it should be, but it is, because it's something that some of you, like Kadi, it's her first baby. She's never gone through it before. You're just worried about everything going correctly. So with that, a lot of times it puts the mom in sympathetic mode. And that's the state of the nervous system, like a stressed state. So the feeling that you get in when you almost get into a car accident, your body starts shaking, that's sympathetic mode. And we don't want the body to be in that mode. And so I'll let you, Kadi, explain the story, and it'll kind of tie it all together for you.
So I read somewhere recently that a mother animal in the wild, like let's say a deer, who's going into labor, if she were to be encountered by something dangerous, like let's say a coyote or a wolf comes up to her while she's in labor, her labor would actually stop, because she would be in sympathetic. She's releasing cortisol, she's stressed, she's trying to not be eaten, and she's trying to protect her unborn child. So her labor would stop until she could get to a safer place. And once she's able to be in that safe place, she's away from danger, parasympathetic kicks in, the cortisol levels in her body calm down, and then labor can start again. So it just shows how important it is to be in parasympathetic, not in fight or flight when you're going through this process, because it allows that process to happen more naturally.
Yeah, and just like Kadi explained with the animals, that happens in our own body when we're in a sympathetic mode. Our body shuts down. Our nervous system kind of shuts down the things we don't need for survival. So digestion shuts down in sympathetic mode. One of the things is labor, or birthing. You don't need that. The mom doesn't need that to survive in that moment, in that state. So definitely breathing exercise. We have breathing exercises on our website. That's a different ratio than we would like you guys to do for pregnant patients, because we don't want you to hold your breath. So pretty much it's a 1-to-2 ratio of inhaling and exhaling. So let's say that you can hold your breath for 7 seconds. You would inhale for 7 seconds, and then you would exhale that breath for 7 seconds. So continuing.
For 14.
14.
Yeah.
Times 2 for the exhale. 7 inhale, 14 exhale. And you keep doing that back and forth, and that's going to shift your body to more parasympathetic to let that labor happen as best it can.
And one thing I want to point out too about that is it also gives you something to focus on. If you're counting your breaths and counting your inhale and counting your exhale, it gives you something to think about other than this is hurting, I'm having a contraction, I'm uncomfortable. You're focused on something else, so it's a distraction coping technique. So not only does it put you into parasympathetic and allow your body to do what it's supposed to do from a physiologic standpoint, it also lets you focus on something else, which can help reduce the feeling of pain or discomfort.
Yeah, do you want to teach them? Katie's taking a birthing class, and she and her husband Chad, and they teach them coping mechanisms and various things. Do you want to tell them the coping mechanism?
So one of the ones that we learned recently was it has to do with breathing, and what we did to simulate pain or discomfort, we had to hold an ice cube in our hand, which doesn't sound hard, but it actually is really uncomfortable, especially if you're doing it for like a whole minute. So we did it for a whole minute without doing any sort of coping technique, and it was uncomfortable. And then we did it again while we did this coping mechanism, which I'm about to explain, and it really reduced the feeling of discomfort during the minute. So what we did was I was holding the ice cube, and as I would breathe in, my husband would circle up on my back, and as I breathed out, he would circle down on my back. So he was doing this like circular motion rubbing on my back, matching with my breathing, and I could focus on how I'm breathing in. I'm focusing on his hand being on me. I'm focusing on something other than what this ice cube is that's causing me discomfort. And we actually were able to go for longer. We went for like 1 minute and 15 seconds with the breathing, the circle breathing, and it didn't feel as bad as when we were just thinking about this pain right here in our hands. So it was really cool. It really demonstrated how much having these different coping mechanisms can make a huge difference.
Yeah, in your mind, it also shows you how much your mind plays a role in it. So, the more you're focused on pain, what's going on down here, you're really going to be focused. Your body's going to feel that pain more, right? Versus if you're focusing on something else, whatever it is, that's where your mind is going to go. So, I know it's not the most relaxing thing to be happening, but you want to try to really relax your mind as well as your body. During labor, we as chiropractors have adjusted patients through labors. The main reason why we want to do that is because those nerves from the low back go to your uterus, and your uterus is what's contracting to make that process happen. So you need those to be functioning as best they can. So with that, throughout labor, we really want to make sure the mom's pelvis is moving properly in a good position. We want to make sure those bones in the low back are in a good position. But everything in the spine, even if there's pressure on the brainstem, certainly things are not going to be happening as well as they could if there's no nerve interference. So we've adjusted patients through pregnancy. But with that, there's also something that you can do that's not necessarily an adjustment. It's called counter pressure. So a lot of times we'll teach the spouse how to do this. If you have a doula, they usually know how to do it. People learn how to do it on their own. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So if Katie wants to stand up. And the main thing that's happening here is we're compressing this area. So we're kind of releasing the tension in the muscles. Essentially, you would stand behind the patient, And I'm just going to kind of get on the outside of her glutes essentially. So the bone, the area that people have, when someone's wearing a bikini, you can see the two little divots there. You would kind of go to where that area is, and you want to go down from that area and out essentially to the sides of the glutes. And I'm going to apply pretty firm pressure, and I'm going to apply pressure in like that, and almost like down like that. So I would just kind of go like this, and in and down. And it's easier if the mom is kind of leaning on something. Katie's holding herself up right now, so it's a little further or harder, but usually she could be leaning on something while you're applying that pressure, down and in really firmly, and that can definitely help with pain.
It helps even when you're not in labor, because we've been practicing. It feels really good.
Yeah. So Katie's really lucky that she works with 3 chiropractors.
Yeah, for sure.
So that can be, and a side note, that can also help relieve menstrual cramps. A lot of people have menstrual cramps in their low back or their legs or glutes. That can really help with that as well. During pregnancy, depending on the rules of where you're delivering, usually if you're delivering at a birthing center, they're a little more lenient with what they allow versus a hospital. But if you can diffuse essential oils, that would be a really good option to create a soothing environment and also dim the lights. But rose and sandalwood are really good for emotional things, so they're emotionally lifting. Peppermint oil is energizing, so it can kind of just help you get through the birth. Sure. And then lavender oil is really calming. So if you could somehow diffuse oils, that would be really, really beneficial for you. So besides that, I really think another big thing, and this is the last thing I wanted to mention, is preparation, mental preparation going into your labor. So if you're thinking it's going to be this painful, miserable event, then, not to say it absolutely will, but you're more likely to have a painful, miserable thing happen. Also, if you listen to horror stories, of things that went wrong, every birth is different. Every situation is different. Your level of health is different than anyone else's. So it's never a good thing to listen to any bad stories of anyone else, because that kind of plants the seed in your mind. And I honestly think what you think about, you bring about. Thoughts can manifest a lot of things in your life. So you want to.
Something that I've been doing when I hear those labor stories, because sometimes people just share them and you're like, oh, okay. I think to myself, it's kind of like a cleansing thing. I just say to myself, not to the person, because I obviously don't want to be rude, but I think to myself, that's not me. That was their experience. It will not be my experience. My experience will be, and then I kind of go through an affirmation that I have for myself.
Yeah.
So I kind of wash myself of that, so I'm not thinking about it and focused on it.
Yeah, and I think if you have to listen through them, then I think that's absolutely a good thing to do. Yeah. So that's all I have for you guys this week. Anything you want to add, Katie?
I don't think so. We're getting close. 5 weeks to go. So yes. Hopefully we can get 5 more videos in, but we'll see where baby wants to make her arrival. So
yes. All right. Well, have a great week, guys. Thanks for joining us.
See ya.